I'll never forget the day I encountered the strange man at college. It started like any other ordinary day, with students hurrying to classes and the campus buzzing with activity. But little did I know that a sinister presence would soon cast a shadow over my college experience. I first noticed the man near the cafeteria. He stood alone, a tall figure with piercing eyes. His gaze seemed distant, as if lost in another world. There was something unsettling about him, an aura of mystery that gave me the chills. Over the next few weeks, I began seeing the man more frequently. He would linger in the corners of the lecture halls, always observing but never participating. His presence was unnerving, and I couldn't help but wonder, what was he doing at our college? Curiosity got the better of me, and one day I decided to approach him. As I walked towards him, a chill filled the air, making me hesitate for a moment, but I pushed through my apprehension. "Hello," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I've noticed you around campus. Are you a student here?" The man's gaze shifted to me, and a faint smile crept across his lips. "No, my dear," he replied, his voice low and strangely captivating. "I'm not a student. I'm an observer of life's peculiarities." His response kinda creeped me out, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from him. There was something inexplicably fascinating about his presence, even though it made me feel uncomfortable. As the days went by, my encounters with the strange man became more frequent. He would appear in unexpected places, always watching, always studying the students and their interactions. It was as if he was searching for something, a hidden truth that eluded the rest of us. Whispers spread throughout the college, with students exchanging stories of their encounters with the mystery man. Some claimed he possessed supernatural abilities, while others believed that he was a deranged individual with malicious intent. The rumors only fueled our curiosity and fear. I became obsessed with unraveling the enigma surrounding the strange man. I followed him discreetly, hoping to uncover his true intentions. But each time I got close, he would vanish into thin air, leaving me with more questions than answers. One evening, as I wandered through the deserted corridors of the college, I stumbled upon an unlocked door. Curiosity overwhelmed me, and I cautiously pushed it open, revealing a hidden room bathed in dim light. To my horror, the room was filled with photographs. Thousands of them covered the walls, each one capturing moments of our lives at college. I recognized faces, friends, acquaintances, and even myself. It was as if the strange man had been documenting our every move. A sinking feeling gripped my stomach as I realized the magnitude of his obsession. Who was this man, and why was he so fixated on us? What sinister purpose did these photographs serve? Determined to confront him, I set out to find the man once again. But this time, he was nowhere to be found. The campus felt empty, as if swallowed by silence. I searched every nook and cranny, my footsteps echoing through the deserted halls. Finally, I reached the rooftop of one of the college buildings. There, standing at the edge, was the strange man. His silhouette was outlined by the moonlight, casting an ethereal glow around him. Without turning to face me, he spoke, his voice carrying a haunting melody. "You've discovered my secret, my dear observer, but it's too late now. I've seen everything, captured every moment, and soon, you will become part of my collection." Fear coursed through my veins as I realized the depth of his obsession. I tried to flee, but it was as if an invisible force held me in place. The strange man turned, his eyes now burning with an intensity. As he approached, I glimpsed the photographs clutched in his hands. They were recent ones, images of me taken only moments ago. It was as if he could see into the future, capturing moments that hadn't even happened yet. With a final, blood-curdling scream, I woke up in a cold sweat, safe in my dorm room. It was just a nightmare. I reassured myself, trying to calm my racing heart. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that the strange man's presence lingered, forever haunting my college experience. My college experience took a dark turn when I became a target of a stalker. Started innocently enough with a few peculiar encounters that I brushed off as coincidences. But as the time went on, the situation escalated into a nightmare that consumed my every thought. It began with subtle things, a stranger sitting next to me in lectures, even though there was plenty of empty seats. A glimpse of someone's gaze fixed on me across the cafeteria. I dismissed them as random occurrences, attributing them to the noisy college campus. But then, the incidents became more frequent and unsettling. I started noticing the same person following me around from class to class, always keeping a distance, but never losing sight of me. Their presence filled me with an unshakable sense of dread. I confided in my friends, hoping for a reassurance or a logical explanation. But they were just as perplexed as I was. They hadn't noticed anyone following me or exhibiting suspicious behavior. That's when the realization struck me. I was alone in this battle against an invisible foe. Paranoia consumed me. Every shadow, every rustle of leaves made me jump. I became hypervigilant, constantly looking over my shoulder, trying to catch a glimpse of my stalker. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by restless nights filled with fear and anxiety. Desperate for answers, I reached out to campus security. I explained the situation, describing the encounters and providing any information that might help them identify the stalker. They assured me that they would look into it, but with no concrete evidence, there was little they could do. Days turned into weeks, and the stalking persisted. I received anonymous messages on social media, filled with unsettling details about my daily routines. They knew where I lived, the names of my friends, and even personal information that should have been private. The messages grew more sinister, filled with threats and malicious intent. They promised to make me suffer, to ruin my college experience. The fear tightened its grip on my heart, suffocating me with every passing day. I became a prisoner in my own life. I avoided public spaces, constantly changing my routes to classes, and even skipped social gatherings out of fear of encountering my stalker. I felt as if their presence loomed over every aspect of my college life, a constant reminder of their control. One evening, as I hurried back to my dorm, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was the stalker, their face concealed by a hooded jacket. My heart pounded in my chest as they closed in, their footsteps echoing ominously. I turned and ran, desperate to escape their clutches, but my efforts were in vain. They matched my pace effortlessly, their determination unyielding. The chase felt never-ending, the darkness of the night swallowed me whole. With each passing moment, my hope dwindled, and the realization sank in that I was trapped, a mere pawn in their twisted games. Tears streamed down my face as I pleaded for help, but the campus remained eerily deserted, as if the world had turned a blind eye to my torment. Just as I thought all hope was lost, I stumbled upon a group of my friends. They sensed my distress and rallied around me, forming a protective barrier between me and the stalker. Their presence gave me the strength to fight back. Together, we confronted the stalker, demanding answers and an end to the torment. Their hood fell back, revealing a face that was once familiar, another student from our college. It was someone I had known in passing, but had never suspected to be capable of such darkness. Their obsession with me stemmed from irrational jealousy, a belief that I had wronged them in some way. It was a twisted and delusional perspective, fueled by a dangerous fixation. The truth shook me to the core, forcing me to realize the fragility of trust in the darkness that can hide behind familiar faces. With the evidence in hand, we handed the stalker over to the authorities. They were expelled from the college and faced legal consequences for their actions. It was a small victory, but it would never erase the scars etched in my mind. Even now, years later, the memories of that harrowing college experience still haunt me to this day. My name is Elena, and I want to tell you a story about an encounter with my college professor. At first, everything seemed normal. I was excited to start my classes, eager to learn and expand my knowledge. But little did I know, one particular teacher would make my college years a living nightmare. I'll call him Professor Dan for privacy reasons. A tall, thin man with a perpetual eerie smile. From the moment I walked into his class, I felt a sense of uneasiness. His eyes seemed to penetrate my soul, as if he knew secrets I hadn't even shared. In the beginning, his behavior was subtle. He would hover uncomfortably close during discussions, invading personal space. His touch was icy and unwelcoming, lingering longer than necessary. But I brushed it off as mere eccentricity, believing it would soon pass. As the semester progressed, Professor Dan's behavior grew more disturbing. He would make inappropriate comments, often directed at female students, disguised as jokes or compliments. The atmosphere in his class became tense, filled with discomfort and uneasiness. One day, during office hours, I found myself alone with Professor Dan. He closed the door behind me, the click echoing ominously in the small room. Fear settled in the pit of my stomach as he approached, his eyes gleaming with a sinister intent. He began asking personal questions, prying into my private life with a disturbing curiosity. The questions grew more invasive, probing into details that were none of his concern. I felt violated, trapped in his clutches with nowhere to escape. But I didn't stop there. Professor Dan started crossing boundaries that should have been respected. He would send late-night emails filled with inappropriate content and insinuations. The messages were veiled with academic pretense, making it difficult to report them without concrete evidence. I confided in my friends, hoping they would understand the torment I was enduring, but their disbelief and dismissal shattered me. How could they not see the darkness lurking between Professor Dan's facade? I felt isolated and betrayed, with no one to turn for support. The situation escalated further when Professor Dan began manipulating my grades. Assignments that should have received a high mark were inexplicably downgraded. It was as if he held my academic future in his hands, using it as a tool to control and intimidate me. Each class became a source of anxiety, my heart pounding as I entered the room. The once bright and promising halls of college now felt suffocating, tainted by the presence of this predatory teacher. I yearned for an escape, for freedom from his grasp. One evening, fueled by desperation, I decided to gather evidence against Professor Dan. I secretly recorded his lectures, capturing the moments of harassment and inappropriate behavior. It was a risky move, but I knew it was necessary to expose the truth. Armed with recordings, I mustered the courage to report Professor Dan to the college administration. They launched an investigation, taking my claims seriously. Other students came forward, sharing their own experiences with his misconduct. The web of deceit began to unravel, exposing the darkness that had plagued the college for so long. Professor Dan was ultimately relieved of his position. The college implemented stricter policies and procedures to prevent such incidents from occurring in the future. Justice had been served, but the scars left by his actions would forever haunt me. Even now, as I reflect on my college years, I'm reminded of the sinister teacher who used his position of power to torment and manipulate. May others who encounter similar situations find peace in knowing that they are not alone, that there is hope for a brighter future beyond the darkness.